Mark holds my in one hand while his fingers tease the air next to the of my. I squirm, but his grip is strong. I tell him, if you me, I'm gonna. He flashes me the devil's smile and my until I am and in tears.
Listen. I believe it. I do. That's cinema fucking verite. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Bim.
How are you today?
I am ready to talk about this little hot daddy we got.
I'm so glad you said daddy and not zaddy, but I still hate both those terms. But I see it. Since our zaddies episode, this is the first person where I feel it in my chest. Like,
see, I wouldn't give him zaddy. He's definitely daddy.
No, he's all of them.
Yeah. He's one of the very few, he's one of the very few white guys that I look at and I'm like, daddy. For me, it's there's a lot that
talking
you have
like
to...
you're some kind of peer. For me, the term daddy can only be applied fucking David Attenborough style. I love it.
You gotta have, definite spice, not just, maybe possible spice way down the line to get to daddy for me. So that's
get to daddy. That's Nicole Perkins' memoir, To Get to Daddy.
So all that to say, we are talking about Mark Ruffalo today.
Listen.
Oh my goodness.
He is just he reminds me of like money. Specifically $100 bill that is crumpled up. So when you unfurl it, you're kind of like, well, it's a good day. That's how I feel. I feel like Mark Ruffalo is a crumpled $100 bill. And I want to kind of like smooth it out.
Yeah.
I just
spend it.
And just go to town. That's what I want to do. I'll tell you that for free.
Let me get 5 meals for this $100.
Let me see how many meals I can get out of this snack. You see what I did there?
I see what you did there.
Thank you very much.
I like it.
Yeah, Mark Ruffalo really does make me very cheesy about like my fancy. I old-fashioned fancy him. I think he is the twin things that I find very important when it comes to fancying a person. I want to find their face and their general kind of physicality appealing, but I also very, very deeply want to find their skill attractive. Like I want it to be so important that I'm kind of like overwhelmed. Like it's kind of like how you get like a friend boner when you see your friend doing something really well.
Yeah.
And you're kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
Like I know that person. Like I love them and they love me.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about whenever I want to fancy someone. I'm like, yeah, I like your face, whatever, it's fine. Everything's impermanent. Your body is just the shell that your soul comes in.
Right.
And so when I look at like skill level, I'm kind of like, rah, Mark Ruffalo, he can act.
I get that because like when my friends do something really well or something happens, I want to get them like a bouquet of flowers and stuff, right? And then you see Mark Ruffalo and you're like, you want to get him a bouquet of
something else.
What is?
I just imagine his poor, confused face. What is this? Open the package, Mark. Poor
it's
guy.
My vulva.
Oh God. Wow, I need to take a Silkwood shower because you just said my vulva, and I gotta say, I wasn't expecting.
I'm sorry, because I'm picturing like me actually sending
please stop picturing
like
everything.
Cupcakes with the shape of my cooch on it.
Oh my God!
Okay,
I've died and left the studio. This is my ghost talking. You've killed me.
I'm sorry.
Wow.
Mark, we're gonna send you some cupcakes. Don't open them.
Jesus Christ, this poor embarrassed man.
I'm ready. Okay, let's get started.
Yeah, well, we're just gonna get started. I think we already began, sis.
Mark Ruffalo.
Yes. You rang. I'm here. Let me put my satchel down and begin the lesson.
Where do we begin with him?
Where do you fucking end? Mate, here's the thing. There is something that I have fancied since I was very, very young. Like, I don't know what imprinted it on me, but I know that I'm always here for a man who wears glasses. And there are a few people who can pull off wearing a pair of studious spectacles quite like Mark Ruffalo. So there is this gif of Mark Ruffalo. I do not know the origin, but it's basically him reading a book topless in bed while wearing glasses.
Yes.
I don't know the source. I've mentioned this before. I don't know, but I know that every time I see that gif, I have to stop and like watch it like work for like 5 or 6 revolutions. Then I'm like, all right, you've got a job. Go do it.
Yeah.
But I always stop and stare.
It's the glasses. It's the hairy chest.
That pelt. You know what? It rivals Tom Selleck's.
Ooh.
From when I was, those are my hairy chest dudes.
Okay.
Just kind of like, it looks like someone's put like a bear skin onto a human. And I'm like, I'm here for it. I'll take it. I never like hairy people. I'm not really into like lots and lots of hair, but Mark Ruffalo's chest hair is just, look how good.
See, I think Tom's chest hair is a little too thick for me,
It
but
is,
Mark's
but I can
is
make
perfect.
it work. Yeah, Mark's is perfect.
Yeah. And it's not just the hairy chest.
No.
It's the hairy forearms, the curl. Okay, you know how I feel about hair.
I do know how you feel.
You know, he's got what we call a lived-in face.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Even when he was younger, he had kind of like a older appearing face.
Yeah.
More mature.
Yeah, and he's grown into it even more. And with it has come things like he didn't have before when he was younger. So the grey hair, like he has like little silver tendrils kind of weaving their way through, which I'm very here for. I've always fancied dudes with grey hair, like silver hair. I'm into it. And Mark Ruffalo is doing that with some panache. Like he's just like leaning into his, how old is he now? Like in his 50s?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
And he just looks like a good time forever and ever. Amen.
Yeah. Just, hi, Mark.
Hi. Hello. What I also love is that he seems, for all of the fact that he has done so much over the years, he always seems incredibly bashful to realize that people think he's a hottie with the body.
Yeah.
Because he is.
He seems disbelieving. Like he's a little shy. He's a little like, oh, come on now. But then also, he's a family man. And so I think part of that is like, I can't talk about this stuff. My kids are going to find this.
Have some decorum and some couth. I will play a little clip that was coming from our own BuzzFeed. And it's basically a clip of Mark Ruffalo reading thirst tweets about him. And we're going to put the video up on our Tumblr. He looks so embarrassed and genuinely touched. Here's a clip.
Thirst, Thirst tweets. Daddy! Exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. Use my face as trampoline. Thanks. Thank you. I just remembered how sexy Mark Ruffalo is, and now I need to lie down. Take a little extra time for yourself.
Listen.
Okay.
One more. I hope destiny allows me to, one day, call Mark Ruffalo Daddy as a cigarette loosely hangs from my lips. I'm flattered. I'm flattered. Thank you. Thanks for that. Thank you.
He's so precious.
He is the most, like, he looks genuinely kind of scared and bewildered. Use my face as a trampoline? You scandalized poor Mark Ruffalo.
He's talked about when he first started acting, he was in a play when he was young, like in high school or something like that, and he played Peter Falk as Columbo.
Oh my God, that's inspired.
Yes. And that's how I see Mark Ruffalo, is like this hot, goofy Columbo, but like
R.I.P. Peter Falk, man.
I mean, come on. But imagine that.
I'm doing nothing but, mate. That's all I'm thinking about. Shut down the session. I'm done. I gotta go. I gotta go write me a fucking spec script.
But
Mark Ruffalo as Columbo.
Yeah, if somebody wanted to redo Columbo and he was willing, because he doesn't do too much television.
He doesn't,
but,
sadly.
We could see him.
We could. But I'm glad you brought up his early career, because I saw Mark Ruffalo very early on, almost by accident. He was in a Kenneth Lonergan movie called You Can Count on Me. And he played like a feckless young man. Kind of a dickhead. Someone who took advantage of his sister's general good nature. Was very much kind of like a bit of a wastrel. And he's so good in this role. And I think it's very interesting because when people think about Mark Ruffalo now, they see him often as this very responsible person. You know, he's often put in positions of like some authority, some kind of like academic depth. And he started off on screen anyway in 2000, particularly playing this kind of fucking waste of a man. And I always love seeing like actors' origin stories, because for all of his horrible kind of like incredibly selfish behaviors, the Mark Ruffalo character, he's called Terry, and he is basically he's a waste man, but he's also incredibly hot. Like I feel like if I was going to waste my 20s with anyone, it would be with him. Like I'd have a really good time and then look back on it and kind of be like, what the fuck was I thinking for that entire decade? That's Mark Ruffalo in this movie. Like he's like this very kind of like, he's so clearly very hot, and he has like a bit of a past behind him, and you know he's going to get up to no good in the future. Like he's like a terrible character, but I really love Terry because Mark Ruffalo plays him so, you know, with so much heart. So I'm always, like I said, the talent is the thing that shines out, and he's always had it in spades. And it does mean that he can actually, even though people don't really think about him that way, he's actually quite a changeable guy. He can play lots of different things and play them very, very well.
When he first started working with Kenneth Lonergan, Mark Ruffalo directed one of his plays. And when he found out that You Can Count on Me was going to be a film, he was like, well, why didn't you reach out to me or whatever? And Kenneth Lonergan was like, oh, you were a little older for this. So they went around and they looked for people who were younger, but then Kenneth was like, actually, Mark, you may be a little older, but you know what this character is about because you have the age and the experience that feeds into this character. And Mark later went on to say that that's how he started getting more roles because people were like, yes, he's a little older than what we had in mind, but he really gets what this character is about. And I think that that is something that has helped his career. You know, he has that mature face or whatever, but it has really helped his career because youth is wasted on the young. And sometimes you do need that little bit of maturity, that experience to bring the character to life. It's not enough to have a pretty face.
So yeah, basically when he talks about being a young actor, you realize that actually the vibe that he gives off about being a little bit more, what's the word I'm looking for? Being a little bit more mature and being someone who, I think it comes from like a very deep neurosis about himself as an actor, and it gives him this kind of like contemplative energy where he's always kind of, everything seems like he's weighing something very seriously. There is a little clip of him that kind of gives you an insight into the kind of person that he is, and somebody's asking him, the interviewer is asking him about, you know, his days at acting school, and he went to Stella Adler, so he's one of those you know, he's a theater actor, and they're asking him about his time there, and I love his answer here because it's very self-deprecating, but it's also very funny and quite, you know, revealing of who he is.
He was in the dressing room on the floor in tears, and I said, what is the matter? And he said, I can't find my action.
How long were you here for? So it was a 3-year program, and I ended up staying for 6 years.
I love that so much. Like, it was 3 years, but to make sure the action really got into me, I stayed for 6 years. I thought that was such a revealing little comment. He's, you know, his self-deprecating laugh afterwards. He's kind of like, yep, I know. I think that really feeds into him. He's someone who I think is a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
And I think he really plays these roles that allow him to kind of show a little bit more complexity because he is himself thinking about the, you know, how complex these characters are.
Yeah, and I think when you talked about that energy that he brings to the character, I think that's what helps put him in these kind of sometimes nerdy or geeky professorial characters. Like he was Stan in Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. And it's just so funny. He was, you know, he is the guy that's helping Jim Carrey's character erase all of his memories of the relationship.
Yes.
And at one point, Stan is with Kirsten Dunst's character, Mary, and they're having like a little thing. And Jim Carrey's character is losing all of memories, and then he stops. And so Stan is trying to figure out what to do, and he's running around in his tighty whities, just in those glasses, those thick black glasses that, you know, signify nerd or whatever. And he just looks so adorable. Just a perfect little nerd moment of him just in his little underwear, in the glasses, losing his mind because something, a science experiment is going wacko.
This is bad. This is very, very bad news. Are my glasses? Okay. Crap. Okay. What do we do? What do I do?
What should we do?
I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do.
I love that. I think that he does that really well. I think you're right. Half the character, sometimes you think, is the character just the glasses? And then Mark's like, no, I'm a little bit more than that. And I think a very good example of kind of having this intensity without the nerd glasses is in Foxcatcher, where he played an Olympian wrestler. And he plays the brother of Channing Tatum, and they're both kind of under the spell of this weird kind of millionaire trainer or whatever. And in that, he's so intense. And something else that I thought about, because I was thinking about the transformation, and, you know, for all of the fact that he looks so rumpled and kind of has the professor look, he's not really like this built up. You know what Channing looks like.
Right, yeah.
Mark doesn't look like Channing Tatum.
Right.
And they're supposed to play these two wrestler brothers, like these two athletes. And he's talking about kind of bulking up to play this wrestler, and he talks a little bit about how competitive like some of the scenes got, and I thought that was a really fascinating window. So this is from his Actors on Actors interview that he did with Jessica Chastain, and she's kind of asking him about how he came to play the role that he played in Foxcatcher, and he's kind of explaining how he prepared.
I'm wrestling a lot with Channing in the movie, who's much bigger than me, so I had to put on some weight to make that feel believable. So we did a lot of weight training and a lot of wrestling training.
Did you train together, or because you guys live in different coasts, right?
Yeah, we started together, and then they quickly realized that Channing and I are the kind of people who don't know how to stop.
Oh, really?
Yes, and we're very competitive as well. And so it would always end up with me getting smashed.
Oh, no.
But no, I got my licks in too. But
Sorry.
Mark was actually a wrestler in high school.
He was.
And he quit wrestling in order to start acting. So he's pulling on some personal history to make that role happen.
Fine. Wrestling's loss was Hollywood's gain. And we, the thirst mongers of First Aid Kit, were very happy about that.
There is a scene
Okay. Take us down memory lane, Nicole.
in the movie The Kids Are All Right.
Listen.
I actually think it has been scrubbed from the internet.
I'm not surprised. It's filthy.
It's filthy. Okay. It's with his character and Yaya DaCosta.
Listen, all I'm going to say on that is representation matters.
Oh, my goodness. Now, okay. When the movie came out, I didn't see it in the theaters.
No. I was thirsty enough to go to the cinema.
No.
I was like, let me go watch this and pay some money.
I waited. I can't remember if I saw it on cable or if it was on a streaming service. But whatever. I saw it. I did not know that this scene was about to happen.
No one did, mate.
I mean, I saw, like, before the scene starts, you know, Mark Ruffalo's character and Yaya's character, they're dating, whatever, you know, flirting. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, sure. I can handle this, said Nicole.
Then, later, after he learns that he has fathered some children through his sperm donation when he was younger, and he's telling Yaya about it. And then they start to do it.
Yep.
Oh, my goodness. It is acrobatic.
That it is.
It is passionate.
That it also is.
I saw him in a way I had never seen him before.
And then you could not unsee it.
Oh, my goodness. And I know that at the time that it was on the internet, that clip, that scene, because I looked for it again. Like, oh, God, I can't keep rewinding this movie. So I'm just going to look for the clip on YouTube. And it was there. So it's interesting because he talks about on his first day of work for that film, it was that sex scene.
No.
Yes. I'm just going to read a little bit. He gives a little background on that to the Hollywood Reporter. My first day of work, I had a sex scene with Yaya. I was thinking it would be something like Us Under the Covers. I get to set and I hadn't met Yaya yet. Shit. We introduced ourselves to each other, and the director, Lisa, said, the way I'm seeing this is you'll be standing naked in the middle of the room and you'll be holding her while she straddles you, and you'll be having sex standing up in the middle of the room, okay?
Okay. Oh, God. Oh,
imagine
my God.
that is your first day at work.
Do you know what? I could not be an actor.
No.
It would, I can't, oh my God, I'm actually shivering thinking about it. Can you imagine?
No.
Oh my God, I'm actually getting hives. This is, oh my God, I'm itchy.
And like he later says in another interview, he says he would rather die on camera than film a sex scene. So I'm going to play a little clip of that.
I have died on camera. I'd much rather die on camera than do a sex scene. You know, it's a room full of, 20 of your closest stranger friends.
and another basic stranger, and you take your clothes off and, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Where are you from? No, I'm from Wisconsin. No, nice to meet you. And whoop! It's very unnerving. Then you have someone telling you how you should be doing it better.
Oh, God.
Which is horrible even when you're in a room by yourself with somebody. But when you're in a room with other people and someone's giving you direction on how to do a sex, then that also is very unnerving. And, you know, it's never really satisfying in the end. What can I say?
Aw, bless his heart.
I love that. I absolutely love that. The thing about Mark Ruffalo, and I think he keeps bearing it out, which is also why I think when we talk about one of his biggest roles in terms of like audience reach, which is playing the Incredible Hulk, aka Dr. Bruce Banner, is that he has this great ability to transmit the idea that I'm not entirely happy with the way things are, but what are you going to do about it? Just fucking suck it up, whatever. And I think I think that really adds to the kind of like the weariness of Dr. Banner. This man who is, by all accounts, an absolute genius. You know, he's this incredibly brilliant mind, and but he has this thing in him. It's, you know, obviously it's a classic Jekyll Hyde situation.
Right.
But it's that feeling of like the constant struggle of like, I want to act. I just want to act. I don't want to do the things that are like, you know, like I think he's obviously a good enough actor to understand that, you know, you've got to peel deep down to get the real performance, etc. But I also love that he, at the core of it, he always remains very human, kind of like, oh my God, it's embarrassing, or it's this, or it's that. And I do love that. I think it really kind of imbues his Hulk with like a real kind of like humanity, where you're just going to see this big green thing. And, you know, when he delivers that very famous line when Cap is telling him, oh, you know, we could really use the big guy now. And he goes, you know, I know you don't like to get angry. And he goes, oh, that's the thing, Cap. I'm always angry.
Right, yeah.
And that felt like a real kind of like, it didn't even feel like that was acting. That felt like just life. Like he was like, oh, fucking hell, mate. Have you seen the news?
Yes.
I'm always angry.
And so many people related to that line because it's like you always have this thing bubbling underneath that you have to keep.
Yeah, he does.
You have to keep under wraps.
You don't know what you're doing.
And you do? She's not in your head?
I know you're angry.
No, we're way past that. I could choke the life out of you and never change a shade.
Speaking of the Hulk and the Avengers and Marvel, Mark Ruffalo spoils the shit out of the movies.
He is Mark Loose Lips Ruffalo. There is not like I love watching. My favorite thing is watching his co-stars when they realize that he spilled the beans, and they're like, "Fuck's sake, Mark!"
Yes,
he looks so innocent. Like what?
Oh my gosh, I have the perfect clip.
Excellent.
From Good Morning America. This is July 2017.
Okay,
and he's gonna spoil Infinity War. Okay. I just want you to listen to how he's with Don Cheadle. And listen to how Don Cheadle tries to like let it go. And even the interview was like, okay, this is too much. Let me give you another question.
Oh, God.
But Mark, it's just adorable.
That's true. In Marvel, it doesn't end that well. Somebody always bites or gets really badly hurt.
Wait till you see this next one. Everybody dies.
Dude.
Not everybody. No. Is that...
No?
Hey, whatever.
Can we rewind that part?
Yeah, you'll cut that.
That's
part
not...
Who, is there anybody in Infinity War that you get to meet that you're excited to meet?
Then am I in trouble?
A little.
Is Barry going to be mad at me?
Dude, I just move on. I wouldn't try to like...
No, what's that next question?
Wait.
Yeah, I would like to meet... It's really interesting because we show up to shoot...
I get impulsive sometimes.
It's fine, you're really fine.
Just get on impulsive.
He said I get impulsive sometimes. I was like, oh my God, if that is not the most Hulk thing. Bless his heart.
I love how crushed he looked because Don Cheadle's like, dude. Like, are you 7? What's wrong with you? You can't. And I love it because he looks genuinely distressed, like, oh, fuck.
Yes.
What did I do now? And this is not the first instance of this. I guarantee it won't be the last. I think he just, like he said, he gets impulsive. He just says things. Everyone dies. Oh, my God. Mark, I love it so much. I love it so, so much. And I think that's also, to kind of do a neat segue, it's kind of what sells him in 13 Going on 30, which I know you haven't seen.
No, not yet.
But it's one of my favorite kind of, like, you know, rainy Sunday afternoon movies. And he plays this, he literally plays the boy next door. And there's a real kind of, you know, childlike niceness to him. And that's not to say he's bland. He's just like a good guy. You know, when kids haven't fully learned the horrors of the world, so they're still kind of open and receptive. He has that vibe. And I know the movie's obviously about Jennifer Garner, who does an astounding job playing like, you know, a little girl in a woman's body. But I feel like he also does a really good job of kind of retaining that boy next door, like childhood feel, in this grown-up man. So you get it, and he's great. He does it again in that movie Far From Heaven with Reese Witherspoon, and he just has this ability, like even when he's playing obviously a very, a nonsense role in a ridiculous movie, he makes you believe.
Like Now You See Me.
Right. Talk about nonsense.
Oh my god. I actually really like the first one. I haven't seen the second one because
No,
I
I
was just like
refuse to.
whatever. But I like the first one a lot. And again, he was playing like this hot magical Columbo, right?
That's the one. That's my kink.
But I remember because I saw this in the theater. And I was upset because I felt like they did him a little dirty in the makeup or something. Like, he had a lot of chapped lips happening. It was
poor Mark.
distracting. And I'm just like, get it together. Get this man some Burt's. I don't understand what's going on. But, that movie is one of those things where you think you know what's going to happen. And then at the end, it gives you some shit you should have already known. Whatever. I can't necessarily recommend it. Mark, though, in this movie was fine. Serviceable.
Sure. That's what he was.
But again, he just, he can't always have these stellar roles, these Oscar-winning, Emmy Award-nominated roles or
and
whatever.
He's been nominated enough, and he's won enough. Like, it's fine. It's all right, babe. You don't always have to be awards fodder.
And the thing, Marvel is taking up a lot of his time.
It is. He'll be free soon, though.
Soon.
Yeah.
Yeah. But like the last 4 to 5 years of his filmography is Marvel and is the Hulk. And I'm sure he might be a little tired.
He might be a little tired, but at least, he's wealthy. And he's living a good life. Listen, my insomnia would be so much better if I was also stinking rich. That's all I'm going to say on that.
Yeah, that's true.
And it means that he can take like really lovely holidays and spend time with his family. And speaking of that, we don't often talk about first objects like relationships and whatever, but I think that there is a very endearing part of Mark Ruffalo, which is that he so plainly loves his wife. Like she's called Sunrise, which already I'm like, I love it. I love
Mark and Sunrise.
Listen, I love when white people have names like Sunrise, because I'm kind of like, I bet you have like jute handbags and like, fake whatever. Like, I love it so much. So yeah, but he loves his wife, and he talks about, and there is a really great scene, because the thing about Mark Ruffalo is there is a surprising amount of tragedy for someone so successful. His younger brother, who he loved very deeply, obviously, was shot and killed in California. And I think it really that was the point where I think Mark himself had said that he was going to quit and just walk away and just kind of be done with it. Yeah. But prior to that, the doctors found a brain tumor. Just chilling. It was benign. Yeah. But he had to have surgery, and the surgery resulted in paralysis in his face for like a year.
And loss of hearing in his left ear.
Like, there's a lot of stuff. And I think there was something very, he seems like someone who kind of takes it all and kind of like, well, how can I make the best of this shit situation? And there's a really great interview that he gives about this, where he talks about discovering he had the brain tumor and basically having to tell his wife. And it's really something. All I'm going to say is, if you can get through this life with somebody that you love and who loves you back, my God, hold on to it.
Yeah, it was very scary. And my wife was, my partner, my pal.
And you hadn't been married that long? You had a kid?
She was pregnant. She was, due. Basically, I found out, and then our baby was born 2 weeks later, our son, Keen. And I didn't know what to do. I couldn't tell her.
You didn't tell her?
No. I didn't know how to tell her without making her afraid. And so I just waited until after.
So you were sitting on this in your head for a month?
I thought I was going to die. And so when my son was being born, it was very loaded.
The tumor was benign, but the surgery to remove it left one side of his face paralyzed.
You didn't know how long that was going to last?
No, and it lasted a long time. It lasted to the point where they were saying, you're probably not going to get your face back.
And there's a bit where he talks about when he discovered that he could move his face. And I absolutely love, like, even in the retelling of it, you can imagine his excitement at the time of kind of like, oh my God, the feeling's coming back.
Then one day, after almost a year,
I was looking in the mirror, and I was trying to move my face.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little.
Just something.
I was like, baby, I can move my face. It's unbelievable, And she's like, I showed her, and I'm like, look, and she burst out into tears, and we both burst out into tears, and then it just slowly started to come back.
When he says, baby, I'm like, why am I single? It's so good.
He's so precious.
He's the most precious. He's a little doll baby.
His family stuff, he's so good with his kids. Like you can see him, he takes his kids out all the time. There are a lot of shots of him with his kids from paparazzi, and of course their faces, the children's faces are obscured.
Yeah.
But he's such a good dad.
Do you know how hot that is? I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a perv, but if you are a parent, this is for women as well. If you're a good parent, that's half the battle, man. I'm in like Flynn. I appreciate it so much because you know what? Anyone can have a kid, okay? As Chris Rock so memorably said it, even cockroaches have babies. But I feel like it's true. Like, this is the most basic thing.
Yes.
But I think if you are a good parent and it kind of shines out and it's apparent, that just seems to me to be something that is inevitably just very hot and very endearing. And I will think about you very, affectionately in adult ways if you are good with your children. So shout out to you, Mark Ruffalo. You good father, you.
We've got Mark with the glasses, looking studious and hot.
Yes.
We've got Mark with the nervous but committed energy, infusing his characters with life.
Yeah.
We've got Mark, the good father, good partner.
Yeah. And all through this, Nicole, he has chest hair.
Chest hair.
Just the right amount. Forearm hair. Oh, God. The curls. Oh, the salt and pepper curls. Sometimes he has a beard.
That Italian curliness, the whole North African migration stuff that be popping all up and through there.
Shout out to the Moors. That's all I'm going to say. Shout out to the motherfucking Moors. They just sprinkle their DNA in that part of Europe. There you go, some spice. Eat it, bitches. I love that. But yeah, he does look, he has a very specific look. It is very kind of rumpled and, kind of lived in. But also, it's, it's, you want to have lived in the life with him.
Yes.
Yes. I just want to spend some time, Mark.
Can't you just see, like, being in a cabin?
Bitch, yes, I can.
Yes.
I'm in the cabin right now.
Yeah.
Only my body
there's
is
like
here.
a little boat,
Yes.
And,
right. There's a little jetty.
Yeah. Yes.
And oh, mate, I've imagined our lives together. I've named our kids.
I would even let him have a dog.
Do you know what? That's the highest fucking thing you can offer a man. Everyone knows.
Yeah.
I'll let you have a dog, she said. Oh my God, he swooned. I just feel that in as much as we talk about, having specific kinds of like Hollywood role models, I'm not, obviously Mark Ruffalo ticks many of the boxes. For one thing, he is a straight white man. But he also has something a little bit more. I think part of that kind of comes from him being a little bit, a bit self-effacing, a little bit kind of like aware. He talks a lot about how the tumor helped him reevaluate stuff. And he talks about how his brother's horrible untimely death also helped him kind of reevaluate stuff. He talks about the support of his family. He talks about, and I think that really has made him, I think being that close to death and coming out the other side of it has made him kind of step into himself a little bit more, where he's kind of like, what's the worst that can happen?
Right.
I had a fucking brain tumor and I'm fine now.
Right.
And I think, when I see him talking about different causes, he will talk about his anti-fracking stance or water protectors and all that stuff, and I think to myself, well, people often talk about Hollywood stars kind of putting their noses where it doesn't belong and just axe, you bastard, and blah blah blah. And I think, well, you know what, here's someone who understands the power of their platform,
Right.
I mean, he does fuck up.
He does fuck up. He was a 9/11 truther.
Yeah.
Like, he hasn't really talked about it since
Not for a while.
2011.
Right. And he's involved, I think, in the casting for trans actors.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm kind of like, mate, do you know what? You talk a good game, but really, like, step into this fully.
Yeah.
Come the fuck up.
Right. It's the actions that matter.
Right. And I think, you know, my hope is that he is also taking a step back and reevaluating some of his shittier decisions. But I am grateful that someone like that exists. And he seems like somebody who genuinely just is kind of like, what can I do here that will reduce harm or, you know, at least make it better for something? And I think a lot of the time there are lots of people who just say stuff and it's like, nah, just shut up.
Yeah.
And that's not to say he is blameless, as we've pointed out.
Right.
But my hope is that, like all of us, he is striving to be better and to do better. And we can only live in hope. In the meantime, I'm just going to, you know, be in the corner thinking about that scene from The Kids Are All Right, because that's going to get me through winter, mate.
Listen, I'm going to find, if I have to, like, film it off the TV with my phone, I'm going to get that scene back in my life.
You sound like a really determined, like a little toaster who could. I'm going to get that scene back.
I am. Mark Ruffalo, you little tushy.
Oh my God, you look like such a dirty auntie.
I feel that way right now.
It's the Ruffalo effect.
Yeah,
he just makes you, like, it starts off very, very genteel. Yeah, he seems like a professor, great glasses.
Yeah.
Also, I would do it on a sofa with him in the middle of the room. What?
Yeah,
That's Mark Ruffalo. That's his appeal. So basically, we see Mark Ruffalo as this kind of incredibly tender, supportive, hottie.
Yeah.
In the words of Jess from New Girl, a hottie with a body. And I think that in writing this week's Drabble, I was really kind of thinking about how to kind of encapsulate this kind of caring, you know, very supportive vibe that he gives off. So I really went for something that was very much a case of, you know, oh, I've been waiting for you to come, like, help me through this rough patch.
Aw.
Yeah, I know, I'm a cheeseball. But yeah, that's literally, I don't know what you've got in store and I'm already scared, but I'm going to read my, let me finish. I never know. All I know is that there is a glint in your eye that started when you suggested sending of cupcakes with your vulva to Mark Ruffalo. And I don't know where it's going to end. And I'm scared, but excited. I'm really here for it.
There are no cupcakes in my draft.
Oh, I'm so pleased to hear that. But already, you know, this is like securing the gate after the horse has bolted. But sure. I'm going to start off reading my drabble.
Yes. Go ahead.
And you will follow up with whatever filth that you've cooked up.
It's not bad.
Sure. All right. Let's begin. Outside the hotel room window, the rain lashed hard. It matched my mood, riled up but impotent with it. I was at the stage of edits and rewrites that necessitated a highlighter and an angry red pen, and scattered around me were pages and pages of the evidence, marked with generous crossouts and margins filled with barely legible scribbles. This play, like all the others, would end up arriving into the world via very messy delivery. I was hungry, promising myself a steak for when the manuscript looked healthier. When there was a sharp knock at the door, I was tempted to yell a rude dismissal, but basic good manners won. Instead, I tied the thick hotel robe more securely at my waist and clomped to the door to open it, a fake smile already plastered on. The words to politely decline housekeeping died in my throat when I opened the door. There stood Mark, curls disheveled, a tired smile on his lips. I launched myself at him before he'd even had a chance to prepare, kissing all over his face in sloppy welcome. I thought you couldn't make it, I said breathlessly after releasing him and pulling him into the suite. Well, I couldn't, he mumbled slowly as he shook his head of the lingering rain. His hair was longer now, with more grey, and as curly as I like it. But then I could, he continued. You're only here for 48 hours, so here I am. I beamed at him, and he smiled back, gesturing at the papers on the bed. Knots? He asked. I ignored his question and picked up the phone. Have you eaten? I said. His hand snaked around my wrist and gently placed the receiver back in the cradle. His voice was suddenly deliciously closer. We'll eat later.
Oh my God. I feel like we need like sheets hanging from the walls and like candles lit and rose petals strewn about.
What? Are you caught in the 90s? What the fuck?
Yes. We need to make this look like Prince is in here recording a song.
Oh, God. Release the doves.
Cuckoo.
Oh, God. What kind of filthy dove did you bring into the studio? Dove sounds like it's seen some things. Oh, God.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, I'm ready to hear your drabble.
Wait, okay. So, again, our minds are doing something together here.
I love it.
You'll see.
Jim and Spock.
And then, okay. So I decided to look at Mark's, hot, disheveled professor kind of thing.
Oh, God.
Okay.
Oh, God. I'm already cringing. Oh.
Okay, it's not bad, I promise.
Sure, I believe you.
Mark nestled into the couch, scripts and notebooks and paperbacks building a moat of creativity around him. His glasses constantly shifted homes, sometimes resting on the bridge of his nose, or holding back his hair, or tucked in the collar of his shirt.
Yes.
He looked like an English professor in the middle of restructuring his entire course syllabus. He'd been staying up late, researching a part, trying to decide if the character spoke to him. Looking at him, murmuring lines from the script to taste them, I decided I wanted to give him a good night's sleep. I approached him, and maybe he could tell by the way I stood waiting for him to notice me that this was more than a snack break.
Oh, my God.
He looked at me and pushed aside the papers immediately surrounding him. I put my knees on either side of his hips and filled my vision with his face, his lower lip shaped into a smoker's pout.
Do you know what?
I leaned down for a kiss and placed my hand on his neck. He preened for me, showing off the sturdy column of muscle and flesh that held the shimmering throb of his heartbeat, stretching until my hand was in the position he liked best. Just before our lips met, he smiled.
This bitch said snack break. This reminds me of my favorite listener tweet. I just called Nicole, it just very, very plainly, this kinky ass bitch. And that's how I feel every single week. Wow.
Man.
Listen, Mark, we're never going to try and break up your happy home.
Never,
But
ever.
I will say that if you are a listener and you are either yourself a Mark Ruffalo lookalike, or you got a friend who looks like Mark Ruffalo, or a brother, or an uncle, or someone, if you don't send him in to First Aid Kit, are you even a faithful listener?
Listen, just put little holes in the box and ship them.
I'm so glad you said holes in the box. I don't know what the fuck that was going to turn into. I'm here for it, though. Yeah. I have so many feelings about Mark Ruffalo, and this drabble helped me explore some of them, and yours also helped me explore some other ones. English professor and shit. What?
Oh,
yes.
my goodness.
Ugh.
Yeah.
So anyway, we'll let this marinate. I needed to fucking marinate. I want to lean into the marination. Let it wash over me and flavor me from the inside out.
Oh, it's too much.
Is it though? Said the lady who talked about fucking snack breaks. I don't think so. My knees straddled him. Anyways, you can vote for your favorite drabble. We'll put it up on our Twitter, which is @ThirstAidKit. And you can pick which drabble you preferred. But of course, as we say every single week, Nicole,
we are all winners.
Yes, we are.
We do this for you and for ourselves.
Clearly. Some weeks more than others. Blimey.
Man. But yeah, so just, vote your heart's decision. But know that there are no losers.
Amen.
First Aid Kit is produced by us, Nicole Perkins and Bim Adonmi, Julia Furlan, and TK Dutess. Our music is by Tanya Morgan.
You can follow the show on Twitter @ThirstAidKit, and we're at TN Whiskey Woman, that's Tennessee Whiskey Woman, whiskey with an E, and Bimaju. Plus, we're on Tumblr at thirstaidkitpodcast.tumblr.com. Please come thirst with us over there.
For our Thirst Sommelier service, call and leave a brief message on 765-884-4778. That's 765-8THIRST. Non-U.S. listeners can send us a short voice note via email at thirstaidkit@buzzfeed.com.
please head over to Apple Podcasts to rate and leave a review. Honestly, it really helps other people discover First Aid Kit. And if you love us, please feel very, very free to give us 5 entire stars.
If you live tweet your listen, please use the hashtag TACPOD, that's TAKPOD, and you can send us emails of love and affection at thirstaidkit@buzzfeed.com. Don't forget my H.
It's a bugbear. We'll be back next week with new thirst objects and more thirsty analysis. Please stay limber. Remember, you've got to keep the muscles loose. I suggest Pilates, but we will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye. Amen.
All right.
And just like his tushy.